voice.
It's game time. So, let's do a quick recap because it's been a little bit since we played. So, y'all started in the town of Red Larch. There's this group of delegates who went missing. Yeah, have as many as you want. I have a metric ton of dice. But you started in the town of Red Larch. A group of delegates went missing. The fire's really loud. It's like... you went out to search for these delegates. You found out that you encountered some people at a tower, and they were kind of a sketchy bunch, and they tried to drug you guys. You guys didn't have that. And you found one of the delegates, Alara. The ever mispronounced. She's gonna have to die soon.
That's a language.
I'm tired of mispronouncing this.
No one knows her name. She has to die.
Yeah, she's gonna die. But you found Alara as one of the delegates, and one of you, who is not with us tonight, found a piece of an amulet that seemed to kind of have a consciousness or something entrapped within it that he would speak to. Alara was looking for this amulet. You went off and searched for other amulets like it. You went back to the tower, kind of got in a scuffle with the person Silas, I think, managing the tower, and that's right. It's been a little bit. Silas managing the tower. He fought you all, disappeared, and then you only saw him again as you went to pursue went to a stone monastery to find the second amulet that, through some nefarious means, one of your random teammates happened to know where it was. He didn't know why or how. Some magical way he just figured out where the second amulet was. So you went, found the second amulet, and it suddenly joined with the first one. So now they both are kind of synced up around one of your characters' necks. Around Twitch the Switch. But I think he's unconscious this game.
He's drunk.
So everybody roll me a d20. And tell me what you get.
6.
4.
What are we
11.
rolling?
20? I think it's probably
13.
16?
13.
11.
So you, as your master falls and collapses under some weight, you pick him up, but then he, with shaking hands, reaches out and puts the amulet around your neck. And suddenly...
Really?
You're
not friends anymore.
And suddenly you hear a voice and he says, we have a new master. And that's... So you're going to be carrying the amulet today. Yeah, so then you guys fought the champion of the stone castle who was infecting this monastery with some of their kind of dark, twisted magic, corrupting the elements. The people upstairs have kind of normalized. They're gonna, they're starting to kind of clean up all the people who've been kind of drawn into the walls by the stone. Paddington is with you. I think he's alive now and well, and he's off the ground, so he doesn't get infected. He's on his little hover.
Floating disc.
Take some concentration to keep that thing going.
Yeah, so Alana...
all my energy.
Yeah, literally everything for Paddington. So Alara talked to her her other delegate companion, and they both kind of agreed that they want to go back to kind of an Elven outpost where their queen is kind of nearby, where their queen is waiting to kind of get news as to what's going on. Is she an elf? I think she is not, but the guy who you rescued is. So he's an elf, and he's one of the delegates. Yes, and he's the delegate who's a cave. And this Elven queen kind of started a lot of the whole thing with the delegate. So
what's his name, the guy we rescued?
Let me see. I think we have it. I gotta find it somewhere. It's been a little bit. Pish posh. Oh, there it is. Mirage. M-I-R-A-J. So he's a second member.
And they want to stick with this
So,
Elven kingdom.
Yeah, so they want you to. So they said, hey, we need to take the amulet to the Elven Queen, and have her sort of evaluate what's going on. And it's probably like about a day's walk, a day's journey away. And so yeah, right now you guys have just looted a bunch. You guys have been ripping through corpses. You've been taking as much as you can.
Did we see him with the amulet?
You saw like you saw him leaning over twitchly as his master's kind of like getting more faint. He seems to have something seems to be taxing him mentally, and you see just like kind of a glisten, like a glitter of metal, but you're not really sure what it is.
Does he say anything? Do you say anything? Or do you keep it a secret?
But if do I want to keep the amulets for the next time Chess is there, or?
Up to you.
Yeah. He got fucking amulets on me, and this seems a little bit stuck now.
Wait, he had an amulet?
Yeah.
What?
Free stuff?
What?
This is a shock.
We had no idea.
We are horrified and
I
shocked.
think
I trusted him to
What
tell me about his
so
jewelry.
You should feel vindicated. You all along, you were like, I told you so.
I will not say I told you so to you fine people.
Oh, that's good.
You
Yes.
people. Let me just say,
Yeah.
it
Dragonborn.
looks
What are you?
great on you.
Yeah, that's good.
It's a
Good
good-
with
it's a
my
good look.
eyes.
Yeah, it really makes
brings
the
out your
eyes pop. That's great. That's good.
So how does it feel to
I think they're sentient somehow. Because I heard something.
Sentient.
What are
Or
they
they make me
saying?
mad, but
That is so in this
Didn't say
season.
much.
Sentient necklaces.
you just say hello.
Rage.
Yeah, so if you say hello to him and it says, yes sir, how can we serve?
Is it talking to you right now?
I guess so, yeah.
I don't hear anything.
Maybe because I'm
Forget your
magical.
barbarian.
Can you ask it a question?
Yeah, what question do you want to ask?
What number am I holding up?
I'm not going to enable that.
We have to know if it's
Must not be a
all-knowing and
magic necklace.
all-powerful.
Yeah.
Did you try to find out what number he's holding up?
Oh, why?
Oh, just checking.
I'm asking if it's all knowing and all powerful.
You asked the necklace if it's all knowing.
Yeah.
It says, we know much when we are all together, Master.
They said no. But there are multiple of them, it seems so.
Well, yes, it seems we just lost one of them.
Maybe we have to have the whole collection.
I don't trust these things. Are they safe?
If he had those, maybe.
I mean, Twitchley carried it for a while, and
It wasn't
he's an
too
alright
much.
fellow.
So you can take it off and on as you please.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Does Alara have the other amulet right now?
No, I
No.
think they silenced
Both
it, or-
are
So the two
attached.
amulets
Okay.
join together.
Oh,
Okay,
you're right.
okay,
I'm
okay.
sorry. Yeah.
No, yeah. So what can you do?
Alara doesn't know we have it,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Does
What would you
does
like me
Alara
to do,
see?
sir?
Does Alara see us like talking about the amulets and like?
She's already kind of starting to head back up. So she was going back up to start heading out towards her Elven kingdom. So you guys
I
kind of
think
join her and the
I
other.
think you would all agree that we should perhaps keep this on LD out from this Alara. Yes.
Oh,
Agreed.
of course,
Until we
yeah.
know more, yes.
Yeah.
Until Twitchley as well.
Twitchley as well. Yeah. So yeah. So you talk to the necklace. You ask what it can do. It says, "Really, what would you like us to do, sir?"
Are you wishing a minute?
No, sir, but we are heralds. But as heralds, even we are the queen with some power.
Maybe find the other delegates?
Of course, sir. We will just need the necessary fuel. Is there anyone you would like to provide for us?
What do you mean by that?
We need fuel, sir, to work on, to find some of our brothers.
You mean like life energy? Or like
In
wood?
some, we see all energy as the same, sir.
We'll find some enemies to fight
We
and
could just run in place. Kinetic energy.
I run around
Hold
us.
up a ball, walk to the top of the mountain.
If I shake it
hold a ball.
up, can I? Wait.
Walk to the top of the mountain,
You can
hold
certainly
a ball
try.
out over the edge, and you'll have a lot of potential energy.
Oh, that's good.
Yes. Well, that was long.
Okay, so where are your other brothers?
I would love to search for them for you, sir, but it would take me a little bit of effort and fuel to do so.
I see.
Are you telling us this as he says?
Oh yeah, so I'm
Okay.
telling you just what the discussion I had. So
We
do you
did
think
see a lot of things suddenly dying.
That's like the
that
sheep.
would make sense, yeah.
Like the sheep.
But we've been battling also a lot, so wasn't too much.
I mean, Switchley is
Whoa,
unconscious.
fancy.
Yeah. So the question is, if I want to give fuel, do I have to? What kind of power should I have on the thing that will give fuel? Just touching works?
You can walk up to anything and touch it, and
So-
that will make it a fuel source. Or you can also just tell it to get the fuel source, but it will be less potent.
Any enemies I found can be used as a fuel source?
You can certainly try.
Okay. And if even if those enemies have amulets,
That's right.
nice. We can try to find the others one. What do you think?
But we need fuel before the amulet can tell us
Oh
where
yeah.
to go, right?
Perhaps we should.
There's nobody on the walls anymore.
But Alora wants us to go to this elven place.
Let's go up and find a squirrel to kill.
Squirrels.
Yeah.
You can talk to animals. I'll look for a squirrel.
Okay, so you all go through the cave complex. You get back to the sort of so as you get to that main room where you initially fought that kind of burrow shark that was going above and below ground, you see that there are two paths. One leads to the way that you know, the kind of the side, the kind of the entrance that leads to this complex through the forest, and there's one that goes up to the complex where the monastery is. You see, as you get into this room, Alara and Mirage kind of speaking in low tones with, what was the old guy's name? I think it was Barnabas. The kind of the old guy who you had initially talked to that was the caretaker. So they are all three talking, and he's motioning.
The guy who we stole the staff. to.
That's right.
Got
one
the
you guys
staff from.
got the staff from. That's true. You acquired the staff from.
Mm-hmm.
Reappropriated.
More like a gift.
Received.
Mm-hmm.
So do you still have the staff on your person
I do.
in a visible way? Or are you going to try to hide it?
Where's he gonna put it?
You're going to put it in the back. Put it beneath your stuff.
I'm a proud person.
Yeah, you can just walk
Yeah,
with it.
no,
Okay.
I'm holding that.
I
I'm
have a
holding it.
blanket if you want
A blanket?
to cover it.
And then you see
Paddington
Barnabas
is
say,
over.
"Oi!
Yes, yeah.
Now that you're done, give me that!" And he waves at the staff. "Where's my staff?"
No.
Roll intimidation. You're gonna have to do
No.
really well.
I beckon Paddington to stand behind me and roll intimidation.
Alright, roll with advantage. You get advantage.
You get advantage. You get
You
advantage.
get advantage. You get
What's
advantage.
Means
that
you can
mean?
roll
So that means you
for
get to
second
roll twice and take the higher.
Oh,
Oh, nice.
looking for the thing. Proficiencies, abilities, skills.
Skills.
Also, if you guys do need more booze, I do have quite a bit more.
15.
You know the apple juice?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, we have
15.
beer. 15? So he sizes you up and says, "Well, you helped us, so I suppose it's our gift to you." And he kind of like, he's not super scared, but he kind of is, all right, fine, you get your way. So he kind of holds up his hands, and you can see that he and Alara and Mirage are kind of pointing at a map of the area. It's the Desert Valley all laid out, and Mirage is pointing to the city and says, she'll want to hear from us. We have to report back. And Barnabas is saying, "But let us just give you a thanks. We want to say thank you to you before you go." And he says, "Look, we really appreciate it, but my queen will want to hear what's happened to the delegates."
Sorry, who is Mirage again?
He is the guy you just rescued. The guy who was getting controlled by the stone people. Yeah, that was one of the chains. That's right.
The delegate, right?
That's right.
What type of thank you would you like to give?
Whoa.
How would you thank me, sir?
He already gave his staff once.
Yeah.
Let's not ask him to do that again.
So he says, we wanted to give...
How many delegates did we find?
I think that's the second.
Second
So-
one.
we
Was
wanted to
Ilara
give...
the first one?
Alara was the first
Yeah.
delegate.
No,
The
okay.
second one is Mirage
Okay.
that you've rescued. And there's 2 more MIA. What's that?
Oh, you said okay.
Yeah. So then you ask, okay, hey Barnabas, what kind of deal you guys gonna give us? And like, and he says, oh, you know, the finest us monks can offer are home brewed beer and bread.
Take it.
I'll take it.
I'll take the bread.
Okay, so he takes you all upstairs. You see as you guys rise up into the monastery, there are all these stone buildings, these kind of gazebos, very circular, and they're all turning very slowly. And as you see, there's a raised stone street, but beneath them are all these gears that are just turning, and the buildings are all rotating in this kind of gear. And you can't really sense the source of the momentum that's creating this, but all the buildings are slowly turning, and kind of the road wraps around them, so that wherever the door is facing at a given time, you can get in.
I stop and I freeze against the wall and I'm like,
What sorcery is this?
And Barnabas says, "Oh, yes, ma'am. This is why we come here to worship. The old gods have decreed that this land should ever be in motion."
I don't like it.
That's why didn't let the wind, blow and have the tree in motion instead of having this contraction.
Roll, are you asking him that?
Yeah.
And he says, "Well, sir, our particular patron is one of stone."
Is that the gentleman we met downstairs? The big boned
the
stone
mustachio
man.
one. I
That
believe
is.
he's a mustachio.
This is the guy who you met downstairs who gave his step. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah,
So,
is this
you're
is
saying
Mustachio.
is the people that they worship, the person they worship?
is the stone being that is controlling this contraption the one we met earlier that helped us bring our friend Paddington back to life?
The big fat stone man.
Rude.
He
He can
doesn't
still
know.
hear
Big
you.
boned.
He can still hear you.
The big boned stone man.
Big bone stone
You
man.
can tell he's not certain, but he says, "Well, listen, I'm just the caretaker. I always respect. I leave that kind of thought for the high priestess. You understand, sir?"
Who's this high priestess? Maybe
Well.
meet her.
I suppose she'll be in the kitchens as we do our work.
Where she belongs.
Where I come from, we don't say those sorts of things. Elves have advanced beyond man.
Yeah, come on. Yeah, no,
Only the half-orc women belong
barbarians
anywhere else.
are. Yeah. Shame,
offense.
barbarians.
Our friendship has just been
Yeah.
reduced.
Kitchen is where the booze is.
That's true, as you can see. But yeah, so you walk into, and the buildings are very simple. They're just kind of, almost they look to be kind of hewn out of, and you can see even the mountain itself kind of has a strange sense of movement to it, like rocks are kind of rolling up and down the mountain. So you see they kind of just be hewn out of the mountain and
I
kind
throw
of
up.
somebody form.
Half-orcs do not like the ground moving beneath them.
No, it's like you're on a ship, pretty much. Yeah.
Wow.
So you throw up, and he says, "Well, ma'am, you may want to save that bread for later." And he kind of leans forward and says, our particular patron can also, for you folks, add a bit of spice if you like."
Oh, they like
Ah,
Huh?
No. I gag a little bit watching her throw up.
What kind of spice do they have? Putting there?
Spice. It's spice.
Interesting.
Spice.
So
I have still a loaf of bread.
you still have a very aged loaf of spice
Yes.
bread. Yeah.
So I
Very
present
aged.
him. He's like, "Oh, is it like a good high spice bread?"
And he
Care
like
to
he kind of like walks
eat it
it, and
and
he's like,
try it.
yeah, but it's not as good as that, sir. you've got some well-aged spice there, Sam.
Oh.
I also have some spiced fire water if anybody wants some.
Yeah, that's right. You do have some spice. You can write all that down in your inventory because
I do, it is. It's here, yeah.
Okay, good.
I have 3 charges.
Yes. So you walk into a larger building, kind of a mess hall, and this lady is, and you see that all the tables that would be normally used for food, there are people there getting medical attention, and because these are all the people they've been sort of now extracting from the walls, and there's a lot of people, and you see that they kind of have like these dark kind of parts of their flesh that has been kind of darkened by whatever the stone did to them, whatever that other influence, and you see the high priestess running around. She has like a long bunch of like stolen robes, but it's very, very basic, very minimal, and she's doing some minor magic to heal, and there's a few other of her like kind of people running around back and forth with kind of like bottles and potions and stuff like that. So
Hello, friend.
yes. Yes, Barnabas told you. He told you, yes. You would need provisions for your journey to the Elven Kingdom, and she kind of snaps up one of her assistants, and she says, "Oh, George, loaves of bread for them, and
Spice, please. 1 spice.
We don't make spiced bread."
Cool. What? Never mind.
We were promised otherwise.
So give an insight check, Barbarian. Give an insight check.
Insight check?
Yeah.
Nat 20.
Give a read the room check.
So you can realize that this is happening under the boss doesn't have any
Well,
idea.
Did she have
Ah,
to do
no,
that?
my friend
She's a
doesn't know what
barbarian.
she's
A
talking
barbarian
about.
does not.
Yeah, I
this goes
needed
over
a
in
nat
much
20
harder.
to get that.
Yeah. The barbarian doesn't pick up on nuance like that
No.
unless they're very lucky.
The only reason I pick up on it is because I rolled really well.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
right.
Oh,
No, I
yes.
meant allspice. I like to add allspice to my bread.
Of course. And she, whips up one of them, and she says, "Yes, and bring them a tankard of our finest and water for their journeys." And then she immediately turns away and starts working on their.
Man.
Yes. How can I help you?
We were just wondering what's about this god that you worship. If you have a moment.
Yes,
Someone else
Arcos.
do the talking.
Yes, Arcos, our stone god. Yes. What about him?
Someone else talk.
We're
he big boned?
Quite.
where can we find him?
He travels. Listen, is this really important? What
In
can I do?
in exchange for this information, I would be happy to lend my magical abilities to help these folk. I won't touch them. I'm going to be clear about that, but I will help.
She says yes. He sometimes grants boons, and creatures that are many of our kind, some of our higher priests, enjoy animating some stone objects with minor spirits, animals and such. And he seems to bless and give his presence to those animated
Like
spirits.
this one? Point Paddington?
Does he wave a paw?
I am a manager. I am not magically gifted, but I'm sure one of my friends could perhaps support
He's
you.
waving his paw.
I'm only
at you.
minor. What was that?
Paddington is waving his paw at you, madam.
Yes, I've seen gargoyles before. Unfortunately, I cannot tell you whether our god has actually blessed him or not.
Can we
Apparently.
Can we meet your god?
He takes many forms. He appears through different stone workings. I cannot be certain. Any of his creations, any of the gargoyles that you can see in our complex, many of them show signs of animate life. Sometimes he will speak through them, sometimes he won't.
I turn to Paddington.
Paddington is like...
I ask Paddington if he is a god. God, I already knew the answer.
He points to
He's
his
the god
face.
of my heart.
He points to his face and just gives you a thumbs up. It's like, obviously.
Well, madam,
Well,
is there
Yes.
anything else we need to know from this woman?
do we know who kidnapped? What's Mirage?
Mirage. Yeah, so you realize that it was, like, the guy who kidnapped him was someone who was very proficient in stone, and there's a pretty high likelihood that it was the person who you fought down there, Marlos. though you're not certain whether or not he had help, because Mirage, from what you can tell, is pretty strong. Like, all the delegates have a pretty high level of ability, so there would have to be some sort of external influence for even one of them.
Madam High Priestess, are you aware that there was some sort of corruption occurring in your caves?
Of course, that's why we sent Barnabas down there. But
Barnabas seems quite inept. Pardon me.
he's one of our best spellcasters, so you can tell what I'm working with.
Yeah. Someone else do the talking.
Yeah, he lost his staff. It's very embarrassing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Adam, what do you know of the corruption? We battled it down.
It seems to have been aided by some sort of magical presence that I have never witnessed before, but it seemed to be some being that had a special affinity for stone, and and she pulls Barnabas aside, and they kind of like...
Oh,
she's like,
pardon me,
"Jinx,
Barnabas. I didn't see you there.
And he says, yes. And he says, and she says, from what I could tell, it was trying to call something. At least that's what he tells me. There was some sort of... And she kind of... You can tell she kind of doesn't buy a lot of this. She doesn't buy all this shit, and she's like, some sort of metaphysical phone call.
Yeah, I try to hide the amulets.
Huh?
You know.
She tries to hide the amulet.
Oh, so she even sees it, and she sees you put it in her shirt, and she's like, whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wasn't sure if that's
Where's
Yeah.
is
Alana has not seen it yet, though.
is Mirage still with us up here?
Ooh, that's our pizza.
Oh, pizza!
Get height. Get height.
Hello, this is Jeff.
Hot pizza.
Excellent. I'm excited to...
I'm pretty sure that's the best greeting you have ever
I'm
had.
excited to see you.
I thought he was doing like a little bit of an accent also.
I know.
Excellent. I'm very excited.
From what land do you hail? Came over from Burlingame.
Yeah.
Ah, yes.
Brought the pizza.
The game of bro. Ah, yes.
You should actually do that one time.
What, do that to like a pizza
guy.
person?
Yeah, pretty good.
Bring him in to read like part of the script for a
Yeah.
character.
Would you
Be
like
the
to roll
NPC
for your
for
tip,
us.
sir?
Yeah.
You rolled poorly.
Yeah. Give us some
Oh,
pennies.
better luck next time.
Yeah.
Oh, what character am I? Your name is Barnabas, an all-powerful mage.
Yeah. Who
Was
lost
that-
his staff tragically.
Barnabas does seem to lose
sorry.
control of his staff early, doesn't he?
Yeah.
It happens to all men.
Now that I have amulets that can steal life force, I want to touch every character with this. Like, should I steal the life force of her or
Should
not?
try with some plants, maybe.
Yeah, I should ask them if they have like some minions they don't really care about that they
Yeah.
can just tire to death. Or maybe not to death, but you know, tire a lot and nobody will see it. Like, do you have a gardener or two? Or
Oh
a
no!
bird
The
and
gardener!
we can just
So
tire a little bit and that will be back on fit by a week.
What did we killed a
I'm the character neutral. I can be evil neutral very fast.
we killed a sheep at one point for that to feed the amulet. So
Yeah,
I guess
we
we could find
did we kill one of the guy on the wall? You know, that
yeah,
got
we
stuck?
that too.
Yeah, who did that?
Featherwood did that.
Ah, which action? It's I think it's in this description. Catching neutral. Yeah, that's the easy one. You can do whatever.
Is that something you choose?
Yeah, you choose it.
Oh.
If you're a paladin, you have to be good, lawful.
Where do you see that?
It's in the description.
Description.
In at least on the big
Okay.
screen.
For like what your alignment is.
Yeah,
Oh, it looks like maybe I didn't have it.
Really?
not really important.
Under description.
It's important for the
Okay.
people of faith.
Oh, from the grid.
Mostly.
Yeah, I don't think
Oh,
What is
I'm.
your
I'm.
Catcher neutral. It's like the easy way out of everything.
I am
It's in
lawful good.
Character.
I
unusual.
If it's for the good, we can kill people.
Yeah, exactly.
It's still the life force for strange emulates. That's perfectly good.
Exactly.
It's for my own good. That's how it works.
Yep. Whoever's good I do another day.
Wait, what is it under? Personality traits, ideals, bonds, flaws.
It's right here. Like at the top of the description for me, it's alignment alphabet.
Part of the course.
Scroll down a little bit. Oh, yours is empty.
Yeah.
Oh, I can choose it.
We don't need that.
Then besides,
Jeffrey, you're my hero.
Of course. Have pizza. Eat your faces out. And then we got some soda and beer and all the things.
Thank you guys.
Beer.
Can I use your micro to heat up the...
Yes, you may. Absolutely.
Would you like us to use plates, Jeffrey, or how should we do
Pardon
this?
me?
Would you like us to use plates?
Yes,
say your own books instead. We can use.
You can. I don't really care that much, but yeah, you can totally use plates if you want to be. If you don't want to be disgusting barbarian.
So only the barbarians don't use plates.
Yeah. Barbarians never use plates.